From the roads you drive on to the water in your glass and the lights in your home, that's Monroe. Running a city of 40,000 people takes a lot of work. In each episode of Monroe Living, Our City at Work, we're taking you behind the scenes to meet the people making it happen. Along the way, you'll discover more about the parks, events, and neighbors that make Monroe shine. Welcome to Monroe Living, Our City at Work. Welcome, everyone. I'm Lisa Hollowell, Assistant City Manager for the City of Monroe, and welcome to the podcast, Monroe Living, Our City at Work. So I'm joined today by two wonderful individuals. We have City Manager Mark Watson and the Mayor Pro Tem, Surluta Anthony. To begin with, I always like to ask, what brought you to the City of Monroe, and when was that? So, Miss Anthony, what brought you to the city? When were you first elected and got involved?
Okay, well, first of all, I'm a native of Monroe, and I've always been involved in the community and in the city, serving on various boards. And once I retired, it was a natural progression.
Amazing. Well, thank you. Thanks for being here. And you've got a lot of history with Winchester, which we will get into.
Okay.
Manager Watson, what brought you to the City of Monroe, and when was that?
Well, I've worked in the City of Monroe for 31 years, 28 and a half years with Union County, and the last 2.5 years with the City of Monroe. So I've seen a lot of change in the city, particularly in the downtown area, and I'm very excited about what we're experiencing right now with the growth and development that we have in our city.
Thank you. We're going to be talking today about the Winchester Revitalization Project. There's a lot of historical significance associated with this project. And I want to start with you, Manager Watson. If you were talking to a Monroe resident right now, how would you explain the Winchester Revitalization Project? And why is it so meaningful?
Well, the Winchester Revitalization Project, as I understand it, started well over a decade ago. When the city started acquiring properties along Winchester Avenue. It's kind of a wedge, if you can, I'll describe it as that, a wedge piece of property between Winchester Avenue and the railroad right-of-way. It's would you say it's well over 30 acres?
Yes, at least.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so the city started acquiring those properties. And as my understanding, the city's plan at that time was to develop some kind of a park in that area. Then 2 years ago, over 2 years ago, I mean, I'll say 3 years ago, there was some renewed interest in the project. New ideas about how that could be developed. And there's been a lot of ideas about how that property could be developed. There's been a lot of ideas about housing. Could it be apartments? Could it be townhomes and all that kind of a thing? And unfortunately, it can't be developed as housing, mainly because of its proximity to the railroad. And then the majority of that property at one time was owned by the railroad. So back when they used to run steam trains, there was a lot of coal and oil that was used for the steam trains to run. And unfortunately, some of that has soaked into the ground, and there's some petroleum contamination. So it can't be used for the purpose of housing, but it can be used in a number of other different ways, and that's what we've been really discussing in this renewed revitalization discussion about how can it be used and how will it best benefit the City of Monroe and particularly the Winchester community. And part of that effort has really been to re-engage the Winchester community in setting a vision for what does this look like? And what does the community want it to look like?
And manager, the city has a presence out there at Winchester already.
We do.
What all services are out there right now?
So the city has owned the former Winchester School for a very long time, and of course some of those buildings burned. Some of them became in such shape that they had to be torn down and replaced. Currently on the old or former Winchester School property, we have two different functions. We have Union County Community Action operates the federal Head Start program, and there are 3 large buildings that the city owns and leases to that program for a nominal amount. But that benefits children that are crib age all the way up to the 4th grade. So that's basically one half of the former Winchester School property. The other half is we have the Winchester Community Center that does a lot of programming in the community, but operates after school programming and summer programming for children in the Winchester community. There's the Winchester Pool that operates during the summer. Then there's the really nice Winchester Gymnasium that was the original gymnasium for the Winchester School. And that's a treasure. That is, you walk into that building, and for those of us that grew up in the 60s and 70s and were familiar with the older gymnasium buildings, it just kind of takes you back in time. But the city has done a really, really, really good job of maintaining that building. The floors were just refurnished or refurbished in the gymnasium, and some of the original bleachers are being replaced with modern bleachers that are ADA accessible.
Thank you, manager. It's certainly a very special place. Mayor Pro Tem Anthony, you were born right on Winchester Avenue and went to school there. So how important is this project, and what is the historical significance to you, and what does this mean to you?
This project is extremely important. I was born at 806 Winchester, and I lived on Winchester till I was 5 years old, and my parents built, and I still stayed in the Newtown community. But growing up there was special because you knew everyone, you felt safe, the community took care of each other, they had pride in the community, all about information came from there. The Winchester Avenue School was the nucleus of the community. The parents were very involved, the teachers lived in the community, they served as role models. This area had 6 doctors, 2 dentists, 45 teachers, some taught out in the county as well, 2 funeral homes, 2 barber shops, 2 beauty parlors, 2 restaurants, 2 cab stands, 2 convenience stores. So you really didn't have to go out of the community. And back at that time, segregation was prevalent. So this was your safety net. The community would come together for annual functions like May Day, when the whole community would come out and bring food and sit around and wrap the maypole. It was just feeling of happiness and togetherness. I think they called it esprit de corps, but it was great growing up there. And the community was resourceful. People had a sense of who they were. They knew their roots. They were proud of them. And then you had, generations of families that grew there. I had a lot of family there. My grandfather was across the street. I had an aunt beside me. On Winchester, 6 teachers. My brother and I's godmothers were there. It was just a great community.
It really sounds like it. What are you hoping to get out of this new project? You've got a committee that's been reformed, and it appears to be a lot of activity going on with the overall potential assessment of what it can be. But what does success look like to you?
Success to me looks like community input. It looks like to me this is providing hope. It's saying you matter. It's giving people the opportunity to help decide or make decisions about where it's going and what they want. And it's fulfilling a dream, because many older adults knew that way back in the late 80s, when those homes on the wrong side of the south side of Winchester were sold, that's where people from Sutton Park went, and sometimes those in Quality Hill. And that park was promised. It didn't come to fruition. Then in 2005, another committee was formed. There were plans laid out for a little strip mall, a museum. A lot of things didn't come to fruition. So this is the realization of a dream.
A lot of activities going on through that committee and with the leadership of the city. Manager Watson, how does this project tie into Monroe's larger vision of growth? How does it fit into the overall plan for the city of Monroe?
Well, I'm going to piggyback on what Mayor Pro Tem Anthony just talked about. It's the coming together of community. This project is about reestablishing that. Monroe has its historic district. This is defined. Monroe has its downtown district. That's defined. Monroe has the Concord Avenue area redevelopment plan. That's defined. That's a defined area. And Winchester is a defined area. So if you start thinking about these components, these different parts of Monroe, how do we start, bringing it all together, maintaining its uniqueness, but then bringing it together and making it feel like one. Connecting people is going to connect community. It's going to build community.
Well,
so that's one of the dreams, I think, is for this reconnection. But that's just one component of the larger plan. While I'm talking about reconnecting, the city has been very fortunate to have received some grant funding through North Carolina Parks and Recreation to establish some greenway walking trails. So there currently is a greenway trail that starts over in the Dickerson Community Center area. It comes all the way through Tonawanda Park, through Don Griffin. The city has, the last 3 years, has received a grant to extend from Don Griffin over to Creft Park. And that's huge. I mean, to walk from Creft all the way over to the Dickerson Park, and you start linking communities together. And there's also some enhancements to Creft Park that's part of this. Part of the Winchester redevelopment plan, though, is to establish in phase 1, there's this Winchester redevelopment has 3 phases. Phase 1 is to establish basically wide sidewalk walking trail that will start up at Morgan Mill, come all the way down Winchester, turn and go through the Winchester community all the way to Creft Park. And if you can imagine walking, a walking trail that basically goes from Morgan Mill all the way over to Dickerson. And there's some preliminary plans to extend it on beyond Dickerson over to Martin Luther King. That creates walkable communities, but it connects communities. It's more than just a walking trail. And I'm going to let Miss Anthony talk about, the aesthetics and what is trying to be accomplished by having a larger walking path down Winchester Avenue.
One of the things that we have done is record oral history. We have invited citizens in who grew up in the community, who went to Winchester, to share their memories of living there, what it meant to them, and what it means to them now, how it's helping them as an adult be a productive citizen. So we haven't decided, how that's going to be presented, whether it be a kiosk or what, but it's going to be a historic walk. And even people who didn't live there but have heard of it will get a chance to share and feel that ambiance of living in Newtown, going to Winchester.
Keeping the memories alive.
Keeping the memories alive.
And keeping the sense of place alive. It's that, as Miss Anthony has described it, there was a special sense of place in Winchester. I didn't grow up in Winchester, but in listening to Miss Anthony and listening to the other folks that have grown up there and how they love that community and how they are connected to that community and their memories of that community, that does not need to be lost.
Absolutely. It's a contagious excitement for sure. What about some of the discoveries since this project has been going on? What's been the most exciting new thing that y'all have learned about through this process?
Well, we learned about more about railroads. And we took a trip to Spencer, to the North Carolina Transportation Museum. We got some unique ideas. We visited the old roundhouse, and it has given us some ideas about what is proposed for this area. And we learned more about what the railroad meant to this community. Many men in this community actually worked on a railroad. So that is part of the revitalization thing and what it's going to mean to this community and all of Monroe. Mark will tell you what some of the things we've planned, and none of it's solid yet, but we're still having ideas pop up because it's going to be a huge roundhouse. So it's be the history of the railroad still and history of Winchester, but all of it is Monroe.
So, as Miss Anthony said, there were quite a few people that lived in the Winchester community that actually worked for the railroad. In the late 50s, early 60s, railroading changed dramatically when diesel locomotives started to be used. And what makes diesel locomotives so special? Well, a diesel locomotive can pull forward, or you can reverse it and pull in the opposite direction, but you don't have to turn the front of the engine around to pull the train. So it did not require what's called a turntable to turn the engine around to hook back to the train to go in an opposite direction. So Monroe was unique in the fact that we had a turntable but there was also a roundhouse, and a roundhouse is basically a garage for steam trains. So on the property that the city currently owns, you have the foundations that still remain of these buildings. And recently we have discovered that the turntable actually still exists. The railroad filled it in when Miss Anthony grew up in Winchester. There was walkable employment. There was commerce there. People worked in their community. So one of the visions for this development, or a part of this development in phase 2, will be to recreate commerce in the Winchester area. And that may look like the historic railroad buildings, and it may have that flavor to kind of pay, homage to the past. But to recreate commerce there and recreate walkable employment and recreate that sense of place that in some ways has been lost is part of the goal. That adds opportunity for people that live there to start businesses, but that also provides employment opportunities within the community, walkable employment back to the community. That creates community. That creates place. That creates purpose. That creates opportunity. The city, and Miss Anthony, you please correct me if I misspeak here, but the City of Monroe's primary purpose in this is to create the opportunity.
That is exactly right. It's just a magnificent plan.
It really is, and this planning process is going on right now. And so how far along are we in this planning process?
Well, we have a committee made up of stakeholders. We have is it the land design team?
Land design.
And we've actually been out and they've walked the actual acreage. We've had already one open forum, and we have another one coming up. We did the oral history. Then they came in and talked to citizens to get their ideas. So we did the trip to Spencer. So
land design is basically helping put all of these ideas on paper. So what does it actually look like? Getting the actual plan so people can see it, having some concept elevations so they can look at it kind of in a 3D. There'll be multiple meetings with community members and the general public to get further feedback. And then when everybody is good with what they see on paper, then it's time for the city to facilitate, create the opportunity by releasing a request for proposals for development firms, private capital to come in, and we'll be able to say, this is what we want to see here. So from a revenue stream part, let me just, from the money part, I'm going to go back to the money part because everybody, the money part's important, okay? So think about it like this. This land today is city property that is not taxed, so there's no tax revenue that's being generated off this property, okay? It is a public asset, and it's just sitting there. and it has been sitting there for quite a while. Following this business model, we will lease a section to a private developer to build out the multi-use part. When we lease that, that's revenue to the city. That helps pay for some of the city's components of this. When the building gets built, now it becomes a taxable asset. So the county tax assessor will go put a value on that, and the ad valorem property tax will be levied on that building. That is a stream of revenue for the city. Okay? Then the third stream of revenue is the sales tax that's collected from all of the individuals that go and purchase goods and services in this phase 2 development. So you've got 3 streams of revenue that are generated to support the rest of what will be the city's responsibility. So it ends up paying for itself over time.
And not an additional burden to the taxpayers.
It's not an additional burden to the taxpayer. That is key. It's not an additional burden to the taxpayer.
And Manager Watson, that has been a direction, a different direction for the city since you've been here, as far as the city not doing things itself, but pulling in private industry, such as with the airport and now this project.
That's correct.
So this is exciting.
It is exciting.
Miss Anthony, is there anything else that you would like the listeners to know about anything related to this project?
Well, I'm just so happy that people get a chance to hear what's going on. We're inviting them to come and see what's going on. Once we have the public forums, if they have an opportunity to come and share ideas. If you really want to get involved, we invite you to come to our committee meetings. They are published on our website, monroenc.org. Also, if you want to know the stages of the Winchester Revitalization Program, go to monroenc.org/Winchester.
Thank you. Manager Watson, anything else you would like to add?
Just the 2 things briefly. One is this past December, we relamped the entire Winchester neighborhood. So all of the city, of course, owns and provides the street lights. The street lamps that were in the Winchester neighborhood were the old incandescent type bulbs, and they kind of look yellow and it's dim light and whatnot. And LED light is a lot brighter. So we went through a process where those needed to be changed. The old ones needed to be changed out anyway. And this past December, we relamped the entire Winchester community. That did a number of different things. It helps with walkability in the evening. It helps with a sense of safety and security. And it brightens it. It just brightens it up. It brightens it up. And the second thing is, and folks will see over the next month or so, work on Winchester Avenue where we are rehabbing some of our stormwater infrastructure. There's a very large set of pipes, culverts that run under Winchester Avenue at the bottom of the hill. Over time, I don't know when those things were put in, but they were probably put in the 1930s. So, they're starting to fail, and they're undersized for the volume of stormwater that really needs to move through there. So those are being replaced. City Council funded that project in this year's budget. All the engineering work has been done. We have a phenomenal stormwater engineering group here in the city that takes care of all of those types of infrastructure. And so people will see in a very short period of time that big project going on. If they were wondering what it is, well, that's what it is. It's another improvement, on Winchester Avenue and Winchester community.
And one thing too, at the Winchester Community Center, there are going to be rocking chairs, and it gives a sense of community again. Because in back in the day, people would walk and sit out on the porches and talk. So it gives that feeling as well. So it's all working together, one big plan.
Very nice. It's exciting. Well, it's been a real honor to have you both here today, City Manager Mark Watson and also Mayor Pro Tem Surluta Anthony. And thank you to the listeners who are tuning in. If you like this podcast, please click follow so that you and also share it with a friend. So we really appreciate it and would like to have y'all back in the future. Thank you for
Thank you for the
listening.
opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, and more to come.